Hi, welcome back to my tutorial series on Adobe Illustrator as based on Classroom in a Book. We have now reached lesson 4, drawing with the pen tool. I've already opened the L4 Start 01 file as in step 2 on page 115. While you're opening that file off the U drive, I will make a couple comments about layers in Illustrator as opposed to Photoshop. Notice we have two layers sitting here. Layer 1 is locked, layer 2 is not locked. The object here is in layer 1. I happen to know that. If I switch to layer 2 and use a selection tool, I can still pick that object. And that's why it needs to be locked in layer 1. You notice that if I unlock it in layer 1, click in layer 2 and go to play, I can still delete that object. So it's not like Photoshop in that once you put something in a layer, you can't touch or you don't touch that layer until you actually select the layer. All that said, let's turn on to page 116 and let's begin the actual pen tool lesson sitting in layer 2, working with the pen tool. The pen tool is one of the most powerful creation tools in a way in Illustrator next to the actual shape tool. The pen tool has two functions. As we begin our lesson, we're going to be using a click only, and that draws straight lines. So it asks us to click on the first object in the center here and just work our way down the shape. And if you click and various anchor points, you'll notice that you get a straight line from click to click. If you wish to complete the line, then you're going to have to get off the tool and then go back on it. And then you can start your own. And as you go to close a shape, you'll notice that there's a little loop by the pen tool. And if you click it, now you have a shape that's actually closed and you can fill if you need to. If you wish to select a segment inside a line, if we click this right now, this whole thing is one shape. If I want just one piece of it, I would need to use the direct select tool and just click one of the paths inside here, and I should be able to just delete that path. That brings me to our next set of work, which comes on page 118, and I'm going to need to open off the U drive lesson 4, 04 start 2. Set that up so we can see it. Basic same job. Use a pen tool, work along. Our smart guides are turned on. So there's a check mark in front of smart guides. That's one of the things that's giving us the lines, anchors, and things like that. And I just clicked in here and I put an anchor point, and I don't want that one. So see if I could delete that one for a minute. Let's start over. If you hold, if you click to put in our first anchor and then you hold Shift, it'll allow you to go straight line, 45, vertical, etc. So that's one of the ways of making, and I'm holding Shift as I go through this now. It's one of the ways of allowing you to follow a nice straight line and keep things lined up. It kind of helps out with that. And that's the end of the exercise there all the way to 5. And then we get to page 119, and then we're going to work on making curved paths. So far when we've used the pen tool, what we've done is we've clicked in a spot to begin a line. You can hold Shift or not and click to end the line. So you put an anchor point, a second anchor point, it fills the line or the path in between. And as you work through it, not quite perfect, but a more square object than the last one. When we get to section 3, we're going to be using the pen tool a little differently. We're going to draw curves. So to recall, click to click to click to click to click, give you a straight line. But if you click and hold the mouse button and pull, you set up an anchor line or an anchor point and a tangent line to your curve. And the longer you make your tangent line, the more curved it becomes. And you can see now that we can start to make a curved object instead of a straight object. So I'm going to work with my pen tool here. I'm going to click on the anchor, click up, click and pull down. And you can see that I got a little bit too much there, so if I really wanted to, I could make an adjustment to this. I can use the direct select tool and I can grab the handles and I can pull it down and I can control then how my curve is formed using the handle tool or the direct select tool and adjusting the handle lengths. B, I generally suggest when you're doing this that you keep the handles relatively short. It's easier to go in and find them later on than and there we have it, a rough curved squiggle line as on page 119 through to the end of 120. And again, if you use direct select tools, you can control the curve. You can grab the handles. And there you go. Up to this point, we've been drawing smooth curves, but when we get to start 04, we're going to be getting to the point where we have objects with curved objects with pointy ends on them. And how do we handle those? And this is where you need to be careful because this can cause some difficulty, some problems with 4 things. So I'm going to click and drag up as before. So that's step 4. You choose the pen tool as before, click and drag up, click and drag down. And here's where the difference is. Step 5, hold down the Alt and position the mouse over the last anchor point or its direction handle. Look for the caret symbol and drag up when visible. So if I mouse on here, I can see, hopefully holding the Alt, you can see that wedge shape there. That's the kind of shape I'm going to be looking for that's next to my pen tool. So there's that shape, holding Alt down now. There's a pen tool with that shape. I'm going to click and drag upwards, and that's what's going to move that handle. The curve would follow that handle normally down. Now it's going to follow that handle going up. And then I'm going to let go of the mouse, let go of the Alt key, and I can continue by dragging down here. And then I'm going to hold Alt, bring up the handle, let go of the mouse, let go of the key, pen tool, drag down, let go of the mouse, hold Alt, pen tool with caret, pull up the handle, pen tool, Alt key, mouse and drag up, mouse down, and there's my shape. As before, if I wanted to, I could use the direct select tool on these paths here or on the handles just to adjust and make it all nice and pretty. Notice that if your handles are not symmetrical in height, then your curve is also not going to be symmetrical. If you hold shift in here while you're doing this, then that'll fix your handle either 45 or straight up and down vertical. Be that as it may, that should give you a bit of an idea of how to set these points in here. And then the other thing I don't think I've ever pointed out here is you can actually grab the anchors themselves and adjust them so that you can change your shape that way too. You can move the start and end points of your paths. Okay, so B. I actually wanted us to zoom in on this a little bit, so let's see if I can do that. That's a little too far. There we go. This starts on step 11, page 127, with the pen tool. Click up as before. Click down as before. And it says, simply pressing the shift key and clicking will not produce a straight line, seeing as how the last point is a curved anchor point. So to create the path as a straight line, we need to click on the last point created to delete one handle. So we're going to click on this point. So that handle, the following out handle, is gone. We need to click this anchor, hold the shift key so that we get a nice straight line. Click the next anchor. Click and drag down. Click and drag up. Click the point, hold shift, click the anchor, click and drag up, click and drag down. And that finishes us to the top of page 128. And then we begin to create a pair illustration, work through that one. So now we finally get the opportunity to do some real vector drawing creation work in Illustrator here. Keep in mind that you do have a template file to begin with, and right now I'm looking at the lesson 4 end file. Something I'd like to really quickly point out is that if you look at this pair, it isn't one solid color. If I was to pick this pair, I could click on this and I could fill it with one solid color, like an orangish color or something, and you notice that it doesn't look as realistic as this, because this actually has some texture, some reflection built into it, like real life objects do. And that's one of the things that you need to try to keep in mind when you're working with vector drawings in general, is that solid shapes, even though they are technically a solid color, they still need to have some texture, some change to them to make them look alive and natural. I'm going to close this one, not going to change it, and I'm going to open the lesson 4 begin file. And that's on page 128 where we are finding our directions here. And please save this one. We're going to be working over on the arrow side. So I'm just going to hit Z on the keyboard and see if I can zoom this in a little bit. We're going to be using the pen tool here. And if you remember, a straight line click from anchor to anchor gives you a straight line. If we click again, a caret appears, indicates that we can split the anchor point. I don't know that we want to do that. What we do want to do is go up to Window, Stroke, and change our stroke here to 3 points. You can type in 3 or press the button. Notice also on our options bar, that's also available there, as well as a fill. Seeing as how it's a straight line, it doesn't have a fill. We are going to split this path into 2 portions. There's a scissors tool sitting here. In order to make it work, you need to click on a path. So I'm going to see with the Smart Guides on. That was View Smart Guides. Scissors tool. And I clicked on the path there, and you can see that it put an anchor point in there. So there's 2 there. And it asked me to separate those points, so I'm going to use my direct select tool. I'm going to push it up the line a little bit carefully, and there you go. Because we do want these 2 lines to be able to be in the same direction. Going to add some arrowheads to this, page 131. There's an arrowhead effect, a filter, and an effect, and we are going to use the effect. Effect, stylize, add arrowheads. We are on the top. Make sure we check preview. That's the area that we want our area end to have. So our start path, our start of the path was there. We don't want anything on there. Our end of the path is actually the beginning of our arrow. And we want style number 2 as the textbook asks us to put it in there. And by the way, changing the stroke width will also change the size of your arrowhead. Or if you wanted to, you could scale it here. Click off, becomes twice as big, and doesn't depend on the stroke then. Well, it still depends on the stroke, but it would double the stroke actual value there. And on this arrowhead, we're going to go Effect, again, Stylize, Add Arrowheads. This time we don't want it on the start, so we're going to pick none for the start or for the end, and this time we do want it on the start. So we're going to have to scroll through, and I think the textbook in step number 3 on page 132 says 18. And when you got it, you can click OK, and we've got the arrowheads done. So now we'll go to View, Curved Line is on page 132 in the textbook. That just brings us to a predefined area that Classroom in the book has set up for us. We want to make this line here. Scroll down and use the pen tool. Click on the anchors, release on the red dots. We'll worry about stroke size later. Click and drag, and that brings that first curve. And they drew that first curve for us over here also. And it says we're going to be looking for, to work on this one here, I suggest that you click the selection tool and click off of it so that you have nothing selected. You can move back to the pen tool now. And if you hold Alt and click and pull up, you look for that little slash that was next to the pen tool there. You can pull up and release. Then go over to B, look for the little circle that'll join the line. Click and drag. Release on the red dot. And there's your leaf drawn. And that brings us to the next section on page 135. This time we'll use the navigator tool to move to our next step, which is the stem. They've pre-drawn something for us already, and we're going to be using the caret tool. That's on page 135. It says use the direct select tool. Click the anchor on the top there so you can see the two handles that are coming out of it. On the pen tool, step 3, change it over to the caret. We want to grab the anchor that's to the left of A and drag it around and set it at there. Step 4, using the convert anchor point, we want to click on this anchor because right now it's set up as being pointy. We can convert it to a smooth curve by clicking and dragging, and there's our stem done. And now it's time to draw the pear. See if we can make that a little more visible. Basic idea, click on the anchor point, drag to the red dot, release. And we may have to do the same sort of thing with the pen and caret tool to adjust a line as we go. So we'll see how that goes. So here's my pen tool. Start at A, drag to K. Here, right there. B, up to there. Hold Alt. And then should be able to click and drag my next one. That's what I wanted. We'll go back and fix that other one eventually. So when I get that caret tool next to the pen tool, I can just click and drag and adjust it. I think I'll just click and drag this one in like that, because those are smooth curves through there. J and K. And this one here, I think I'm going to need to use the Alt tool and grab that. There we go. And if you click the anchor, that should fix that. And we can use our direct select tool and do a little adjusting. Pull this one in underneath perhaps. Push that handle up. Check this one here. That handle is a bit out. So you move that one over. That lines up. That lines up nicely. Up in the path here, if you wanted to, you can drag it out, or you can take G, the actual anchor point, depending on how you want to do it. Just kind of tweak it so it follows on the lines nicely. And when you're happy with the shape, you can let it go. And we finished making our pear. We finished editing our curves. And that takes us through to the top of page 140, where we're going to be finishing the pear illustration. It says that we got a bunch of extra lines over on the side, so here we can use the selection tool, pick them up and clean them up. We're going to go over to the stem and the leaf, make them smaller. So let's go over to the stem first, top page 141. I'm going to select the stem, object, transform, rotate it, and we want a positive 45, not a negative 45, and OK. And we were also supposed to scale it to 50%. Transform, scale, uniform 50%. And if you want, you can kind of shift it over to the direction of the pear while you're at it, because we're going to need it up here eventually. Go find the leaf. This one here, select it. We want to transform the leaf, scale it by 50%, and rotate it by 15. So scale, 50%, object, transform, rotate, 15. Let's see if we can push it up too. Get it going up towards the direction of the top of the pear. If you wish to, you can nudge with the arrow key, or much larger nudges with the shift in the arrow. I think I would have preferred a little less rotation on the stem and a little more rotation on the leaf. I moved so that I can see the arrow. I'm going to drag the arrow over. I'd really like to be a little careful here, because I don't want to make it look like the arrow is broken. Try to get them lined up through. And this guy should technically stick out the back. Let's see if we can nudge it over a little bit. I think it's automatically in the front already as it is. This one here, I don't need to worry about in the back, because it's behind. And now it's time to paint our object. If we do this, we can pick the pear itself. We can go into the fill area, and we can find the pear body. And we can go into the pear stem, and we can click pear stem. Notice that these are all gradients. This here's a leaf. You could drag and drop that in. You should be able to drag and drop that into the leaf. Or just click it, I guess. Put it in. And pear scribble. Nope. Would be kind of with a pen or a pencil tool. And that should be on the path. That's not going to work too well. Let's set that back up. So that's pear body, appearance, fill. We can add another fill. The second fill, we'll put the scribble in, see what that does. Doesn't work too well, too bad, so sad. And we lost our line that was sitting there. So we may have to go object, arrange, send to back. And we need to make a little line through here. So I'm going to use a pen tool. And I am going to just go one like this to here. And that's in black. We'll just leave it like that. And I should probably slide it down so it touches the arrow here, something like that. May need to tweak it. It's got a fill, so I'll take the fill off it. And that should do it. And thank you for watching Lesson 4. Look forward to seeing you in Lesson 5, where we work with Live Trace. Have a great day.